Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are stepping into the sandals of a Roman gladiator. The cold stone floor beneath you smells faintly of sweat, leather, and iron, a far cry from the cozy sheets of your bed. In the flickering lamplight, you shuffle along with the other recruits in this ludus, this grim training ground, where iron and ambition collide. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And drop a comment with your location and local time. I love seeing where you're listening from tonight. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise. And let's get started tonight. You can feel the cold seeping up through the dirt floor into your bones, the lingering chill of the night refusing to let go. In this quiet moment, you might think that the worst is over, but the day has only just begun, and the ludus is a place that never sleeps. The other men around you, some wide-eyed boys, some weathered veterans, are already stirring, adjusting their tunics and rubbing the sleep from their eyes. You're one of them now, whether you like it or not. The light from the small, smoky lamps casts long, eerie shadows against the rough walls. There's no privacy here, no comforting walls of your own. Just the shared breath of men who know that tomorrow might be their last. You're here because you've been bought or forced. Maybe even volunteered, Dorians. Still debate whether some gladiators really chose this life, or if the promise of glory was just another chain. The smell of sweat and oil hangs in the air as you rise. The lanista, the grim-faced trainer who owns this place, paces the aisle with a thick wooden staff, tapping it against his palm. He's not a cruel man, but his eyes have seen too many broken bodies to waste time on soft words. He grunts once, and that's the only permission you need to start your day. You move slowly, your feet numb on the packed earth. The weight of your tunic scratches at your shoulders, and you're keenly aware that everything you own, your freedom, your breath, even your life, belongs to someone else now. The light outside is just starting to creep in, pale and hesitant, like the sun itself is unsure of what it will find here. In the distance, you hear the low clink of iron, someone sharpening a blade, someone else testing the weight of a wooden sword. You're in no hurry to join them yet. The stillness of this moment is rare, and you cling to it for just a second longer. There's a small basin of water near the wall, and you splash some on your face. The water is cold and stings your skin, but it does little to wash away the tiredness in your bones. You catch a glimpse of your own reflection in the ripple's eyes that seem older than your years. Skin already toughening like leather. You wonder how long you'll last. A rat scurries by your feet, fat and lazy, unimpressed by the gladiators in training who shuffle past. You almost envy it. In this world, the rats seem to have more control over their fate than you do. There's an odd fact for you. Some say the rats here are smarter than the men, always finding a way to survive, always slipping through the cracks. The lanista's voice cuts through the quiet. "Move," he snaps. And just like that, the day begins in earnest. You fall in with the others, the dirt floor gritty under your bare feet. The sun outside is still just a rumor, but already you can feel the weight of the day pressing in. As you move, you catch snatches of conversation, jokes that aren't funny, muttered prayers to gods who probably aren't listening. You laugh along, but it's hollow. You're not sure if it's hope or madness that keeps you going. It's probably a little of both. You pass by a wooden rack of practice swords. Gladius blades dulled by use, splintered from countless strikes. You'll spend hours with them today, your muscles screaming your breath ragged. But for now, it's enough to know they're there waiting. They're your only chance at survival, and they know it. One of the older men, he's missing 3 fingers on his left hand, gives you a look. You'll learn, he says in a low voice like he's sharing some secret. Or you'll die. Either way, it's better than rotting in chains. His breath smells like sour wine, and you're not sure if he's comforting you or cursing you. The smell of stale bread wafts through the air, and your stomach reminds you that hunger is just another companion here. The food is simple bread, maybe some olives if you're lucky, but in this place, even that feels like a feast. As you walk into the training yard, the sky is starting to glow, and for a moment, you almost believe in the promise of a new day. Almost. But you're still here, still breathing the dust of the ludus, still waiting for the sun to rise high enough to remind you that the real battle hasn't even begun yet. You line up with the others for the morning meal, your feet shuffling on the dusty ground as the line inches forward. A wooden table is laid out with hunks of bread-hard cheese and a pot of thin porridge that steams in the cool air. It's not much, but it's enough to keep you alive for another day. And right now, that's more than enough. The man next to you grumbles about the porridge. "Tastes like last week's bath water," he says with a grin. And you manage a small laugh. You're all in the same boat, and humor, no matter how thin, goes a long way. You take your chunk of bread, tear it with your teeth, and let the dry crust scrape against the roof of your mouth. It's rough, but you've learned not to complain. Complaints are a luxury, and in this world, luxuries are for the dead. The air smells of sweat and stale straw. But as you chew your bread, you can almost imagine it's the warm, yeasty scent of a bakery in some distant town you'll never see again. You close your eyes for a second and let yourself pretend. Pretend that this isn't your life now that you're just passing through on some odd vacation gone wrong. But then someone jostles your shoulder and the fantasy shatters like thin ice. The lanista appears, his voice slicing through the quiet murmurs. "Eat fast," he says. "You'll need your strength." There's no warmth in his voice, no comfort. Just a simple truth: you'll need every scrap of energy to face what's coming. You swallow the last of the bread and wipe your mouth on the back of your hand. The porridge is thin and watery, more like gruel than food. But you drink it anyway, grateful for the warmth it leaves in your belly. Hunger is an old friend here, one you'd rather not see, but you can't avoid. You and the others gather in a circle, a ragged ring of men bound together by circumstance. Some mutter quiet prayers to Jupiter Mars, or any god who might listen. The lanista doesn't care who you pray to, as long as you fight when the time comes. As you bow your head, you remember something odd. You heard the night before that some gladiators believed a small statue of Hercules in their cell would bring them luck in the arena. Tiny tokens of hope in a world where hope is hard to come by. You don't have a statue, but you find yourself whispering to the empty air anyway, just in case something is listening. When the prayers are done, you move to the small well at the edge of the yard. The water is cold and tastes of iron, but it clears the sleep from your head. You splash it on your face and let it run down your neck, feeling the last chill of night melt away under the morning sun. The lanista watches you with a hawk's eye, and you straighten your back, trying to look less like a frightened boy. and more like a warrior. You wonder if he can see the difference. Historians still debate whether gladiators were truly willing fighters, or simply slaves dressed up for the amusement of the mob. But standing here in the dirt, you're pretty sure you know the answer. You rub your hands together, feeling the roughness of your palms. Already the skin is toughening, growing thick and calloused from hours gripping a wooden practice sword. You're not sure if that's a victory or just another sign you're turning into someone else. Someone who kills because that's the only way to keep breathing. A horn sounds in the distance, and you know it's time. The first rays of the sun are warming the yard, turning the dust to gold in the light. You join the others, your breath misting in the cool morning air, and for a moment you feel like part of something bigger. Not noble, not glorious, but something that matters, at least for today. The lanista steps forward, his voice calm but firm. Remember, he says you're not here to die. You're here to live. He looks at each of you in turn, as if measuring your worth with his eyes. And if you can't do that, then die well. A small, wry smile tugs at the corner of his mouth, and you realize that's as close to kindness as you'll get from him. You square your shoulders, the bread in your belly settling like a stone. Your stomach grumbles, already hungry again, but you push the feeling down. Hunger is just another test here, another reminder that life isn't meant to be comfortable. As you follow the others out into the yard, the sun finally crests the walls, and the world is awash in light. For a brief, blinding moment, the dust and sweat and fear all fade away, and you're just another man walking into the day, carrying your fate in the pit of your stomach and the calluses of your hands. You glance at the man beside you, and he grins a crooked, gap-toothed smile that says more than words ever could. You're all in this together, and if there's one thing that binds you, it's the knowledge that tomorrow is never promised, and today is all you have. You take a breath, let it out slow, and step forward into the heat of the day. The sun is rising now, bright and merciless, and you can feel it start to bake the dirt beneath your feet as you move out into the open yard. The heat isn't as bad yet, but you know it will be soon enough. By midday, the ground will be hot enough to sear the soles of your feet through your thin sandals. You squint against the light and join the other men who are already forming ragged lines in the yard. The lanista stands at the front, his wooden staff tapping the dirt in a slow rhythm that seems to echo in your chest. "Weapons up," he says, and you reach for a wooden sword, a gladius that feels like a club in your hands. It's not sharp, but it's heavy enough to leave bruises if you're careless, and you will be at least at first. You glance around at the others. Some of them move like they were born with a sword in hand, each motion smooth and sure. Others like you are still finding their balance, trying not to trip over their own feet. The lanista's eyes catch everything, and he doesn't miss a beat. "Don't swing like you're trying to scratch an itch," he calls out. "Your enemy won't wait while you figure it out. Your arms already ache, and you haven't even started. But you lift the sword anyway, gripping the handle until your knuckles go white. The lanista shows you the basic stances, feet shoulder-width apart, knees bent weight forward. He moves with a kind of easy grace that makes it look simple. You try to copy him, but your legs feel like they're made of lead. Again, he says, his voice calm, but insistent. "Balance, then strike." You step forward, thrust the wooden blade out, and feel it jar in your grip as it connects with the practice shield of the man in front of you. He grunts, and you both step back, trading places in the line. Over and over the same moves, step, thrust, recover, until the motions blur together and sweat runs down your back in rivers. The sun climbs higher and the air grows heavy. Dust kicks up with every step, sticking to your skin and catching in your throat. You cough once, taste the grit of the yard. The lanista doesn't pause. "You'll fight in the sun," he says, "so train in the sun. No shade for cowards." You believe him. You're pretty sure he'd make the sun itself stand still if it meant he could beat the weakness out of you. Your arms start to shake. Your shoulders burn. The weight of the wooden sword feels like an anchor, but you grit your teeth and keep moving. You remember hearing that some gladiators would rub sand on their hands to toughen the skin, a ritual that left them raw but ready. You're starting to understand why. Next to you, one of the older men, a veteran with a thick scar across his chest, grunts with each strike. He doesn't bother to hide the pain. Better to ache now, he mutters, than bleed later. You nod, even though your arms are already trembling with exhaustion. The heat grows, and so does the noise. The thud of wooden blades against shields, the low curses of men pushed to their limits, the crack of the lanista's staff against the ground when someone falters. You lose track of time of how many times you've lifted the sword and set it down again. It's just the rhythm now, up, down, like the beat of your heart. Historians still debate whether these drills were more about training or breaking a man's will. You can see the truth in the sweat-slick faces around you. Some eyes bright with determination, others dull with despair. You wonder where you fall if the line between hope and surrender is really as thin as it feels. As the day wears on, you notice something odd. A small lizard darting across the yard, its green scales glinting in the sun. It pauses on a warm stone, watching you with unblinking eyes. For a moment, you're almost jealous. The lizard doesn't care about swords or blood or survival. It just basks in the sun, alive and free. The lanista calls for a pause, and you lower your sword. Your breath coming in ragged gasps. The world narrows to the ache in your shoulders and the pounding of your heart. A boy next to you drops to his knees, his face pale as chalk. The lanista doesn't yell, he just waits silent and watchful. The boy forces himself back to his feet, shaking but standing. The lesson is clear: you rise or you fall. No in between. The sun is directly overhead now, turning the yard into a kiln. You feel the sweat drip from your brow, sting your eyes. You blink it away and take up your sword again. The lanista raises his staff, and you know what's coming next. Again, he says. And so you move the rhythm of the yard, pulling you forward like a tide. You'll keep going until you can't anymore. And then, if you're lucky, you'll keep going a little longer. The sun hangs heavy in the sky, and you're feeling every inch of it on your back as you shuffle over to the weapons rack. The lanista's shadow falls over you, and he gestures at the array of gear. "Choose," he says, his tone as casual as if he were offering you a piece of fruit. But you know that every choice here has weight, and none of it is yours to keep. You run your hands over the practice swords first. Gladius blades dulled and splintered from years of hard use. Then the tridents, cruel and gleaming in the sun, their prongs curved like fangs. There's a net too frayed at the edges, but still dangerous in the right hands. You've heard of the retiarius, the net fighters who dance around the heavy-armed murmillo, striking like wasps in the heat of battle. Your fingers brush the helmet's next bronze and iron, some with visors shaped like the open mouths of beasts. They smell of sweat and metal, the scent of 100 men who came before you. You lift one to your head and feel the weight of it drag your neck down. It's stifling a furnace of heat and noise, but that's what you'll wear when the time comes. A grizzled veteran with a missing ear watches you fumble with the straps of your leather greaves. "Loosen them," he says with a crooked smile, "or you'll be tripping over your own feet before you even see your enemy." You take his advice, adjusting the buckles until the leather hugs your shins snugly. The weight of the armor feels alien, but you know it's better than nothing when blades start to swing. There's an odd fact you remember someone mentioning in the shade of the yard. Some gladiators would rub crocodile dung on their skin as a kind of sunscreen. The idea makes you gag a little, but you suppose when the sun itself feels like it's trying to kill you, anything's worth a try. You stick to the shade and the sweat, though trusting the old tricks of a soaked tunic and a quick prayer. The lanista calls out the names of the different styles, his voice a litany of violence. Murmilo secutor, Thraex hoplomachus. Each has its own weapons, its own style, its own promise of glory or death. You're still not sure which you're hoping for. You choose a battered wooden gladius and a worn shield. It's a weight you're starting to get used to, though it still makes your shoulders ache just to hold it up. The shield is round and heavy, its face scored with old blows. You wonder how many men have held it before you, how many fell clutching it to their chests. The lanista moves among you, adjusting grips, correcting stances with a swift rap of his staff. He doesn't shout. He doesn't have to. His eyes are enough, and you feel them on you, even when he's not looking. He pauses beside you, nods once at the way you're holding the shield. "Good," he says. "It's the closest thing to praise you'll hear all day." You stand a little straighter, even as the weight drags at your shoulders. The sun is still climbing, and your sweat soaks into the leather straps, turning them dark and slick. You shift your grip on the sword, trying to find the sweet spot that doesn't send jolts of pain up your arms every time you move. The drills begin again. This time, you're not just swinging a sword in the air, you're facing an opponent. Another man with the same desperate glint in his eyes. You trade blows, wooden blades clacking together, the shock of each impact rattling your teeth. "Balance," the lanista says. "Footwork. Don't think about winning, think about living. You move, you strike, you stumble, you recover. Over and over, the rhythm of the yard becomes a song you can't forget. Your shoulders burn, your legs tremble, but you keep moving. It's not skill yet, it's stubbornness. But here, that's almost the same thing. Historians still debate whether the armor made gladiators more vulnerable or more fearsome. Some say it slowed them down, made them easy targets. Others claim it was the difference between life and death, the weight of survival wrapped around your bones. You don't have the luxury of debate. You just have the aching weight of bronze and leather, and the knowledge that it's all that stands between you and a blade. The sun is a white-hot hammer overhead, and you're starting to feel like iron in the forge, bent, beaten, but not broken yet. You take a breath, tasting the dust and the sweat, and raise your sword again. Next to you, the man with the missing ear laughs as he ducks under your clumsy swing. "Don't worry," he says. "The first time's always the hardest." He winks, And somehow that small, stupid gesture makes you smile through the haze of exhaustion. You're both here, both fighting, both still standing, for now that's enough. When the lanista finally calls for a halt, you're shaking so hard you can barely keep your sword upright. You let it drop to your side, your shoulders sagging with relief and exhaustion. The sun beats down, but you don't care anymore. You're still breathing, still standing. And in this place, that's all the victory you need. The drills begin anew, and this time the lanista's voice is sharper. The commands clipped and relentless. Faster, he says, his staff tapping out the rhythm. Harder. You raise the wooden gladius again, your muscles screaming in protest. Every strike feels like you're pushing against the weight of the world, but you keep going because that's what's expected. No complaints, no second chances. Your legs are shaking, but you plant your feet, shifting your weight with each step. Step/block again. The rhythm becomes everything, your breath syncing with the crack of wood on wood, the dull thud of shields absorbing blows. Around you, men grunt and curse under their breath, sweat shining on their faces like oil. A bead of sweat trickles down your temple, stinging your eye. You blink it away and catch a glimpse of the lanista watching you, his face unreadable. He raises his staff and points to your stance. Lower, he says, and you drop your hips, feeling the burn in your thighs. Better. It's a small word, but it lands like a blessing. The sun is high now, the yard shimmering with heat. Dust clings to your skin, mixing with sweat, until you're coated in a thin layer of grime. Your tunic is soaked through, clinging to your ribs with each ragged breath. You wonder if the Romans ever thought about how ridiculous this all is, grown men playing at war in a dusty yard, as if it will matter to the crowd that's never seen the sweat and blood behind the show. The lanista moves among you, correcting grips, adjusting footwork with swift, silent touches. His presence is like a shadow at your shoulder, and you find yourself trying to match his movements to mirror his stillness. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, you listen, because in this place, his word is law. You trade blows with a man older than you, his beard streaked with gray. His strikes are slow but heavy, each one landing like a hammer. You grit your teeth and block your arms, trembling from the impact. Again, the lanista says, and you do. Again. The word is a litany, a prayer, and a curse all at once. There's a joke somewhere in the back of your mind about how this is like a very intense game of tag, but you're too tired to laugh. Still, you can almost hear the smirk in your head as you think it's some small scrap of humor that keeps you from sinking into the dust. The sun creeps higher, the heat pressing down like a hand on your back. You're starting to see mirages in the air, shimmering shapes that vanish when you blink. Someone next to you stumbles and falls, his wooden sword slipping from his hand. The lanista doesn't yell. He just waits, patient as the grave. The man drags himself up, panting, and the drills continue. Historians still debate whether these endless drills were meant to teach skill or just wear you down until you stopped thinking altogether. You're starting to think it's both. When your mind is blank, there's no room for fear. Only the next step, the next breath, the next strike. At some point, you stop feeling the ache in your shoulders. It's not that it's gone. It's just part of you now, woven into your skin like the dust and sweat. You move automatically, your feet shifting over the packed earth. your sword rising and falling like the tide. It's not graceful, but it's steady. And here, steady is enough. You remember an odd fact you heard once, maybe from the old man who sharpens the blades that some gladiators would sing under their breath as they fought a low, wordless chant to keep the rhythm steady. You try it now, a quiet hum that drowns out the pounding of your heart, the ragged gasp of your breath. It's not music, but it's enough. The lanista calls for a halt, and you freeze the world, narrowing to the heat of your breath and the taste of dust on your tongue. He looks at each of you in turn, his eyes sharp and bright. Good, he says. You're learning. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding, and your shoulders sag with relief. You're still standing. That's all that matters. When the drills finally break, you stagger into the thin strip of shade along the yard's wall. Your breath comes in shallow gasps, your arms hanging limp at your sides. The relief is sweet, a small island of coolness in a sea of sun-baked dirt. You lean back against the wall, your head tipped up to the narrow line of sky above. The man next to you drops to his haunches, his shoulders shaking with quiet laughter. Some morning, he says, wiping sweat from his brow. You manage a tired grin. It's not much, but it's enough to remind you that you're still alive, still capable of laughter even here. You sit together in the hush of the shade, the weight of the day pressing in on your shoulders. Around you, the yard is quiet for once, the clamor of training replaced by the slow, even breaths of men too tired to talk. You close your eyes and let the coolness wash over you, the rough wall pressing into your back. Someone starts to speak, a soft voice that carries in the silence. Did you hear about the Thracian? He says. And you tilt your head to listen. The tale is an old one, passed from mouth to mouth like a prayer, a gladiator who fought with 2 swords and lived long enough to see the emperor's face. A hero, maybe, or just another dead man in the end. The others join in voices weaving together in the half-light. Tales of men who fought and fell, of women in the stands, who threw flowers to the victor and coins to the dead. You listen, half dreaming the stories, filling the silence like balm on raw skin. One man leans in close, his eyes bright with the thrill of it. They say the arena is haunted, he murmurs. Spirits of the fallen watching us train, waiting for the next to join them. His grin is crooked, more mischief than menace, but the hairs on your arms stand up all the same. You laugh, a short, breathless sound. Then let them watch, you say, and the man nods, his grin widening. Let them see we're not afraid. There's an odd fact you remember hearing in another tale. One of the old-timers swore that the sand in the arena was mixed with crushed seashells, sharp enough to tear flesh and drink blood. A fitting stage for the theater of death that waits beyond these walls. The lanista passes by, his eyes flicking over the group in the shade. He doesn't speak, but his presence is enough to still the voices, to remind you that the stories are just that, stories. In the end, it will be you and the blade, and no ghost or legend will stand in your place. You shift your weight, feeling the ache in your thighs where the wooden sword left its mark. It's a dull pain now, a reminder that you're still learning, still here. The quiet around you is thick, the kind that seeps into your bones and settles there like a hush in the corners of your mind. Historians still debate whether these moments of rest were meant to heal the body or break the spirit, whether the shade was a kindness or a test. You're not sure it matters. In the end, the sun will rise again, and the drills will start anew. You tilt your head back, watching a cloud drift across the narrow sliver of sky. The world outside these walls feels impossibly far away. A place of green fields and cool water, of voices raised in laughter instead of command. You let yourself dream of it for a moment, a brief escape, before the next blow falls. Beside you, the man with the missing ear hums a quiet tune, a fragment of an old song that tastes of home. You don't know the words, but you know the feeling, the ache of something lost, the hollow echo of something you can't quite remember. It settles over you like a blanket, soft and heavy. You close your eyes and breathe deep the scent of sweat and dust, familiar, now almost comforting. You're a gladiator, or at least the beginnings of one. You're not a hero, not yet. But you're here, and you're still standing. And for tonight, that's enough. The shade doesn't last long. The sun creeps along the yard's wall, stealing back every inch of coolness, until you're forced to rise and join the others again. Your legs protest, heavy as marble, but you push yourself up anyway. You're learning that in this place, comfort is a luxury you can't afford. The lanista orders you into a circle, and you take your place among the others, each man clutching his wooden blade like a lifeline. He studies you all with eyes that miss nothing, and then he nods once. Today, he says, we learn more than just how to fight. Today, you learn what the gods demand. You're not sure if he's talking about actual gods or the cruel whims of the crowd. But either way, you brace yourself for what's coming. The circle tightens, each man turning to face the others, and the drills begin again. This time, the focus isn't on technique. It's on superstition, on the strange, desperate rituals that weave through the life of every gladiator. You learn them in whispers, half believed and half feared. The man beside you, the one with the missing ear, presses a small charm into your palm. Keep it close, he says, his voice low. Carved from the bones of a chicken for luck. You raise an eyebrow, and he laughs. You'll need it. You slip the charm into the folds of your tunic, the small weight against your skin, a quiet comfort. Around you, others mutter small prayers to Mars, to Jupiter, to Fortuna. Some draw crude symbols in the dirt, with the tips of their wooden swords, circles, crosses, signs of protection that have been passed down longer than the empire itself. One man smears a dab of animal blood on the hilt of his blade, his eyes fixed and serious. For strength, he mutters, and you nod as if you understand. Maybe you do. In a world where life can end with a single cut, you take whatever scraps of hope you can find. Historians still debate whether these rituals were born of true faith or just the need to feel in control of something, anything in a life that wasn't yours to command. But here in the heat and dust, the difference doesn't matter. You do what you must to survive. The lanista doesn't stop you. He doesn't believe in luck, but he knows better than to fight the small comforts men cling to. Instead, he walks the circle, his staff tapping out the beat of your hearts. Fight with your head, he says. But never forget, fear is the real enemy. The drills continue, and you feel the weight of the charm at your chest with every breath. You move in rhythm with the others, the circle of bodies swaying like wheat in the wind. Step, strike, block. Again. Again. The dust rises around you, turning the air to a haze of gold and grit. Someone laughs, a short, harsh bark of sound that echoes in the yard. Maybe we should pray to the sun itself, he says. It's killing us faster than any sword. You manage a tired grin, the joke a small spark of life in the sweat and dirt. You pause for a moment, letting your eyes drift across the yard. In the far corner, you see the small shrine the lanista keeps, a crude altar of stacked stones, a bowl of oil that flickers in the breeze. It's not much, but it's something, a reminder that even in this place, the gods still watch. Or maybe they don't. It's hard to tell sometimes. An odd fact crosses your mind. Something you heard once in passing, that in some corners of the empire, gladiators were believed to be closer to the gods than anyone else. Their blood, a kind of offering. You're not sure if it's true, but standing here in the sun, your skin hot and your breath ragged, you can almost believe it. The circle tightens. The blows come faster, and you move with them, your body finding a rhythm you didn't know it had. There's no room for fear now, only the weight of the charm at your chest, the hiss of your breath, the dull thud of wood on wood. When the lanista finally calls a halt, you lower your sword, your arms trembling. Around you the others are the same, sweat-streaked, dust-caked, but still standing. You look at the charm in your hand and close your fingers around it. Maybe it's just a scrap of bone. Or maybe it's enough. You stand in the yard, the sun sinking toward the rooftops, and for a moment you let yourself believe. The day wears on, and the drills begin to fade into a haze of heat and dust. But as the sun starts to dip lower in the sky, a new sound hums at the edge of your hearing, a low, steady murmur that grows louder with every breath. You pause your wooden sword, heavy in your hand, and turn toward the distant walls that ring the yard. Beyond those walls, you know, lies the amphitheater, its stone arches catching the dying light of the afternoon like a crown of gold. And beyond those arches, the crowd gathers. Even now, you can almost hear the distant cheers, the low buzz of voices, the promise of blood and glory that calls to them like a siren song. The lanista lets you rest for a moment, and you lean against the worn wooden rail that borders the yard. You can feel your heart thudding in your chest, the echo of the crowd's distant hunger stirring something deep in your bones. You're not in the arena yet, but the noise has already found you. The man with the missing ear grins, his eyes bright in the fading light. "They're waiting for you," he says, his voice a soft rasp. "For all of us." He's not wrong. Out there, the crowd waits, thousands of strangers who will cheer your triumph or your death with the same wild joy. You swallow your throat dry. The air tastes of sweat and something sharper metal maybe, or just the tang of your own fear. You've heard that the crowd can smell it, that they know the scent of a man's terror better than any beast in the arena. Whether it's true or not, you stand a little straighter, your shoulders squared against the weight of their invisible eyes. Historians still debate whether the crowd's bloodlust was born of cruelty or just the simple thrill of danger. You're not sure it matters. In the end, all that matters is that they're waiting, and soon you'll be the one they're watching. The lanista paces along the rail, his staff tapping a slow rhythm that matches the beat of your heart. "You hear them, don't you?" he says, his voice low. The roar of the crowd, the promise of the games. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over you. Remember it. Let it burn in your blood. You nod, though your mouth is dry and your palms are slick with sweat. You grip the wooden sword tighter, the rough handle grounding you in the here and now. The drills, the sweat, the sun, these are the things you know. The crowd is just another challenge, another test. An odd fact drifts through your mind. Something you heard in the shade earlier, that some gladiators would smear their blades with a mix of resin and oil to make them shine brighter under the sun, catching the crowd's eye with every swing. A small trick, a bit of theater to feed the endless hunger of the stands. The lanista calls you back to the center of the yard, and you move automatically, the weight of your training settling on your shoulders like a cloak. Around you, the others do the same, each man finding his place in the growing twilight. He looks at each of you in turn, his eyes sharp as flint. "The games are not for you," he says, his voice carrying in the hush. "They're for them. But that doesn't mean you don't matter." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "You fight for your life, and for some, that's enough. You square your stance, your breath slow and steady. The noise of the crowd still hums at the edge of your hearing, but for now, it's just a distant promise. You're here in the dirt and the dust, and that's where your battle begins." The sun sinks lower, painting the yard in gold and shadow. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the day settle in your bones, and then you open them, your focus sharpening to a point. The crowd can wait. For now, you fight the only battle that matters, the one against the fear in your own chest. You lift your sword again, the wooden blade heavy in your grip, and take your place in the line. The drills continue, but your mind is already in the sand of the arena, your feet already tracing the steps of the dance. You'll soon be called to perform. You wonder if the crowd will cheer for you, or if they'll forget your name before the sun sets. But for now, you don't let it matter. You breathe, you move, you fight. And in the hush of the yard, with the sun setting behind you, that's enough. The sun dips below the walls of the yard, and with it, a hush settles over the gladiators. The drills end, the wooden swords are set aside, and the heat of the day gives way to the cool breath of evening. You stand there, your shoulders aching, your tunic clinging to your skin, and for a moment you almost feel like you've stepped out of your own life and into someone else's. The lanista gives a short nod, and you file out of the yard. In pairs. The shuffle of feet on dirt, the only sound. The shadows grow longer, pooling in the corners of the training ground like spilled ink. You breathe deep, tasting the night air cool and sharp after the heavy heat of the day. In the dim light of the flickering oil lamps, you find your place in the barracks, your back against the rough wooden walls. Around you, the others settle in too, some rolling their shoulders, some massaging sore muscles, and a few just sitting there, staring into the darkness with the hollow eyes of men who've seen too much in too little time. The night is alive with small sounds. The creak of the wooden beams, the soft rustle of straw mats, the slow, steady breaths of men too tired to dream. You shift your weight, your body stiff and uncooperative after the day's punishment. But you're grateful for the pause, however brief. The man with the missing ear slumps down beside you, his grin a ghost in the half-light. "Rest while you can," he mutters. "Tomorrow's not promised to any of us." His words hang in the air heavy and true, and you nod, though you're not sure he can see it. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come right away. The stories of the day still dance in your mind, the clash of wood on wood, the weight of the shield on your arm, the distant roar of a crowd you've yet to face. Historians still debate whether gladiators dreamed of freedom or simply of survival. Tonight, you find yourself dreaming of neither, just of silence and stillness, a moment of peace in a life that rarely offers it. Someone down the row starts to hum a low, tuneless melody, the sound weaving through the darkness like a thread of comfort. You let it wash over you, a lullaby of tired voices and shared fates. The night outside is cool, and you can feel the weight of the stars pressing down, a reminder of how small you are in the grand scheme of things. An odd fact crosses your mind. Something you heard once about the amphitheater itself. That beneath the sand and stone lay tunnels and chambers, dark places where men and beasts waited for their turn to face the sun. You wonder what secrets those tunnels hold, what ghosts still pace those shadowed halls. The flickering lamplight casts strange shapes on the walls, and you watch them dance, your thoughts drifting like smoke. You hear a soft laugh from somewhere in the dark, a joke maybe, or just the crack in a man's armor of silence. You don't need to know the words to understand the meaning. We're all here, all in this together, at least for tonight. The man with the missing ear pulls a thin blanket around his shoulders and lets out a long breath. "Sleep," he says softly, almost to himself. "Sleep while you can." His voice is a balm, a quiet comfort in the restless dark. You lean back, the rough wood of the wall pressing into your spine, and let your eyes drift shut. The noise of the day fades, replaced by the slow rhythm of breath and the distant hush of the night beyond the walls. In the flickering lamplight, you let yourself believe for just a moment that the world outside this place is quiet and kind. That somewhere, someone is watching the same stars and breathing the same cool night air. And that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will come with a little mercy. You let that thought carry you down into the darkness, where the hum of voices and the weight of exhaustion finally give way to sleep. Morning comes like a hammer blow, the first pale light creeping through the narrow gaps in the barracks walls. You wake with a start, your back stiff, and your arms aching, the echo of yesterday's drills still humming in your bones. The others are already stirring, rubbing sleep from their eyes, and pulling on tunics that smell of sweat and old straw. You move slowly, your body protesting every shift and stretch, but there's no time to linger. Today is the day you leave the yard behind and step into the sand of the arena. The promise of it hangs over the barracks like a storm cloud, heavy and electric. You file out with the others, the cool morning air a fleeting comfort against your skin. The lanista waits by the door, his staff resting against his shoulder, his eyes bright in the dawn light. Today, he says, his voice quiet, but steady. You earn your place, or you leave it behind. You nod once, and he nods back, the only blessing you'll get. The path to the arena is a narrow alley of stone, the walls on either side closing in like the jaws of a trap. You feel your breath quicken, the weight of the day pressing down on your shoulders. The others walk in silence, each man lost in his own thoughts. You wonder what prayers they're whispering, what small comforts they cling to as they march toward the sand. The air smells different here. Dust and old blood, the faint tang of iron that never seems to fade. You grip your wooden practice sword, though you know it will be replaced soon enough with cold, unyielding steel. The weight of it feels different today, heavy with the knowledge that this time it's not a drill. An odd fact crosses your mind. Maybe to distract yourself, some say the sand of the arena was mixed with crushed seashells, sharp and bright, so the blood would gleam like rubies in the sun. It's a small detail, but it makes the place feel alive, like the very ground itself is hungry. Historians still debate whether the games were about honor or just the cruel amusement of the crowd. As you walk, the distant roar of voices grows louder, and you think you know the answer. The truth doesn't matter, not to you, not today. You reach the gates of the arena, and the lanista pauses his staff, tapping the stones. "Remember your training," he says. "But more than that, remember your life." His voice is quiet, but you can hear the steel in it. You nod again, the words settling in your chest like a second heartbeat. The gates swing open, and the light of the sun blinds you for a moment, the brightness shocking after the dimness of the barracks. You step forward, the sand crunching under your feet, and the roar of the crowd hits you like a wave. Thousands of voices all blending into a single deafening sound that seems to fill the sky. You don't look up. You keep your eyes on the sand, on the weapons laid out for you to choose. A row of gladius blades, their edges sharp and gleaming, catch the light and throw it back at you like the glint of a predator's eye. You reach for one, the hilt warm from the sun, and wrap your fingers around it. The weight is familiar, the promise of it settling into your bones. The crowd quiets for a moment, the hush of expectation hanging in the air like a held breath. You can feel their eyes on you, the weight of their gaze as heavy as the sword in your hand. You take a breath, slow and steady, and step forward. You're not alone. The others fan out beside you, each man moving with the same careful focus. You catch the eye of the man with the missing ear, his crooked grin still there, even now. He gives you a small nod, and you nod back, the unspoken bond of men who know the value of each breath. The sun is bright and hot on your shoulders, the sand warm beneath your feet. You shift your weight, testing the balance of the sword in your hand. It feels right, like an extension of yourself, like a promise. The crowd begins to chant a low rolling sound that seems to come from the earth itself. You let it wash over you, let it fill the space between your heartbeat and your breath. You're here in the sand with the sun and the dust and the endless roar of strangers who will decide your fate. You lift your sword and take your first step forward. You take another step forward, and the sand shifts beneath your feet, warm and grainy against the soles of your sandals. The crowd's roar rises and falls, like the tide, a rhythm that pulses in your chest as you move. You keep your eyes forward, your fingers tight around the hilt of your sword, the weight of it an anchor in this swirling sea of sound. Across the arena, you see the man you'll face. He's younger than you, his skin sun-dark, and his eyes bright with something like hope, or maybe it's just desperation. He lifts his sword in salute, and you nod in return, a small gesture of respect, in a place where respect is measured in blood. The lanista's voice is a distant memory now, but you hear it in your mind. Balance, footwork, breathe. You shift your weight, the sand giving just enough to make every step feel like a test. The air is thick with heat, and the smell of sweat and iron, the sharp tang of it filling your nose with every breath. You circle each other slowly, the crowd a blur at the edges of your vision. You can feel the weight of their eyes on you, 1,000 strangers judging every twitch of your muscles, every flicker of doubt in your eyes. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that the only eyes you need to worry about are the ones across from you. Historians still debate whether the gladiators felt fear or something closer to euphoria when they stepped into the sand. You think it's probably both a tight knot of dread and exhilaration that makes your hands tremble and your heart hammer in your chest. You lunge forward, your sword slicing through the air, and he meets it with his own blade, the crack of iron on iron, ringing out like a bell. The sound is sharp, clean, and you feel it all the way down to your bones. The shock of it rattles your teeth, but you don't let it slow you. You shift your weight again, moving with the rhythm of the sand beneath your feet. He strikes back, and you block the impact, jarring your arm. You can taste the sweat on your lips, the dry burn of your breath in your throat. There's no room for thought, no space for anything but the next movement, the next breath. An odd fact crosses your mind unbidden that some gladiators would rub their skin with oil and ash before a fight to make themselves look more fearsome in the bright sun. You wonder if he did that, if the shine on his shoulders is just sweat or something more. It doesn't matter. You keep moving your body, finding a rhythm that feels almost like dancing. You circle again, the sand shifting and swirling around your feet. The noise of the crowd fades to a dull roar, a distant thunder that no longer touches you. It's just you and him, the two of you bound by the weight of your swords and the promise of what waits at the end of this dance. You see an opening, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes, and you strike. The blade bites deep into his shield, the force of it driving him back a step. He grunts, the sound low and ragged, but he doesn't fall. You don't expect him to. You don't want him to, not yet. You draw back, your breath coming in short gasps, your shoulders tight with the effort of each swing. The sun is hot on your face, the sweat stinging your eyes, but you keep moving. You keep fighting. Because here in the sand and the heat, there's no room for anything else. He feints, his blade flashing in the sun, and you block without thinking, your muscles moving faster than your mind. You feel the shock of it all the way up your arm, the sting of the impact, sharp and bright. You grit your teeth and push forward, your heart pounding like a drumbeat in your chest. The crowd is chanting now, the rhythm of their voices blending with the pounding of your pulse. You're not sure what they're saying. It doesn't matter. You let the sound wash over you, a tide of noise and heat that carries you forward. You lock eyes with him, and for a moment there's a flicker of something like understanding between you. You're both here for the same reason, to live, or at least to die well. You nod once, a small gesture of respect, and then you move again, your sword swinging in a silver arc that catches the sun and throws it back in his eyes. You feel the rasp of the sand under your knees as you drop, rolling away from his blade, in a move you practiced 1,000 times in the yard. The sand is hot and rough against your skin, but you don't notice. You come up on your feet again, your sword ready, your breath steady. You stand there, the sun blazing overhead, the sand warm beneath your feet, and you know this moment is all there is. The past is gone. The future is a question mark. All that matters is the fight, the weight of the blade in your hand, and the next breath in your lungs. You rise from the sand, the taste of grit on your tongue, and steady your breath. The other man mirrors you, his eyes narrow, but alive with the same stubborn spark that burns in your own chest. Around you, the crowd leans in closer, the noise a low, hungry murmur that seems to seep into your skin. But you don't let it in. You're here in the heat and the light, and the only thing that matters is the man in front of you. You circle again, your steps sure, despite the ache in your legs, and the way your arms feel like they're made of lead. The sun burns high in the sky, turning every breath into a gulp of heat, every movement into a test of will. You adjust your grip on the sword, the sweat slick on your palms, and wait for his next move. He comes at you hard, his blade slamming into your shield with enough force to jar your teeth. The impact rattles through your bones, but you hold your ground, your feet digging into the sand like roots. You can feel the weight of his attack, the raw power behind each swing, but you don't give an inch. You shift your weight, turning the force of his strike into momentum for your own. Your sword arcs up a blur of motion in the harsh light, and you feel the moment it connects wood on iron, a sharp, satisfying crack that echoes across the arena. He stumbles back just for a breath, but it's enough. You press forward, your body moving before your mind can catch up. Historians still debate whether gladiators truly fought to kill, or if they were just actors in a brutal play, their lives measured out in moments of violence and silence. Here in the bright circle of the arena, you know there's no difference. You fight because it's the only thing left to you. An odd fact flickers through your mind. Something you heard once in the quiet of the barracks, that the emperor himself would sometimes decide a man's fate with the flick of a thumb, up or down, life or death, all decided in the blink of an eye. You wonder if he's watching now, if somewhere in the shadowed stands, there's a man in purple robes with your life in his hands. The crowd's roar swells as you trade blows, the noise a living thing that breathes around you. You block his sword, your shield, a wall of wood and sweat, and then you twist, bringing your blade up in a tight arc that almost catches him off balance. But he recovers his feet, finding the sand, as if he's always known how it moves. You lock eyes again, and for a moment you see the same exhaustion in his gaze, the same weight of the day pressing down on his shoulders. But there's no pity here, no mercy. Only the rhythm of breath and blade, the unspoken promise that one of you will walk away and one of you won't. You circle again, the sand shifting under your feet. The sun is a hammer on your back, but you keep moving, keep fighting. Your arms ache, your breath is ragged, but you don't stop. You can't. There's no room for hesitation, no time for doubt. Only the fight, only the next swing, only the beat of your heart in your ears. The man faints, left his blade a flicker in the sun, and you move to block. But it's a trick, and you feel the sting of his sword as it glances off your shoulder, a sharp kiss of pain that wakes you up all over again. You grunt the sound low in your throat and press forward, the taste of blood sharp on your tongue. You drive him back with a flurry of blows, each one fueled by the fire in your chest. The noise of the crowd blurs into a single, endless sound, a sea of voices that rises and falls with every strike. You don't think about them. Don't think about anything but the man in front of you and the weight of your own breath. You see the opening, a flicker of hesitation in his stance, and you take it. Your blade arcs down the force of it, driving him to his knees in the sand. He looks up at you, his eyes wide, and for a moment the world seems to hold its breath. You stand there, your chest heaving, the sun hot on your skin, and you wonder if this is what victory feels like, or if it's just another moment of survival in a life that has offered so few. You stand over him, the sun beating down, and the weight of your sword heavy in your hand. He kneels in the sand, his breath coming in short, ragged gasps, and for a heartbeat, everything goes still. The noise of the crowd, the heat of the day, the ache in your arms, all of it fades into a single perfect moment of silence. The man looks up at you, his eyes dark and bright all at once, and you wonder what he sees there. A victor, a murderer, or just another man caught in the same dance of survival. You can't say. You're not sure you want to know. Historians still debate whether the final blow was always delivered in the arena, or if sometimes mercy was granted in the quiet shade of the tunnels below. You know what the crowd wants. You can feel it in the roar that surges back to life, 1,000 voices crying out for blood or mercy, their words lost in the rush of sound. You tighten your grip on the sword, the leather of the hilt slick with sweat. You can feel the weight of every eye in the stands pressing down on you, 1,000 strangers who will forget your name by nightfall. But for now, you matter. For now, you are everything. An odd fact drifts through your mind, almost absurd. In its suddenness, some gladiators believed that the last breath of a dying man carried a piece of his soul, that to kill was to take something you could never give back. You don't know if it's true, but as you stand there, your shadow falling over the man in the sand, you think you understand why they believed it. He lowers his eyes, his shoulders slumping in silent surrender, and for a moment you feel a flicker of something like pity, like grief. But it's gone as quickly as it comes, swallowed up by the roar of the crowd and the beat of your own heart in your chest. You lift the sword, the muscles in your arm trembling with the weight of it, and then you stop, just for a breath, just long enough to see him. Really see him. A man, not an enemy. A life, not just a story for the crowd. But the arena doesn't care about your doubts. The crowd doesn't care about your mercy. You take a breath, and then you bring the sword down. The sound is final. The dull shock of impact echoing up your arm and through your bones. He crumples to the sand, his breath leaving him in a soft sigh that's lost beneath the roar of the stands. You stand there, your chest heaving, the taste of dust and sweat on your tongue, and you wonder if you'll ever stop hearing that sigh. The sun is bright and hot, the sand warm under your feet, and the world seems to hold its breath once more. You lower your sword, the weight of it suddenly so much heavier than it was a moment before. Around you, the crowd erupts in cheers or groans, 1,000 voices rising in a wave that washes over you and leaves you standing alone and shaking in the center of it all. You look up, and in the stands you see a nobleman watching you with cool, distant eyes. His face is calm, unreadable, but you can feel the weight of his gaze like a brand. You wonder if your fate is already decided in that look, if the flick of a thumb will seal your life or end it. You stand there, the sand clinging to your skin, the blood on your sword already drying in the sun, and you wait. Wait for the judgment that will decide if you live to fight again, or if this is the end of your story. You take a breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and you don't dare to hope. You just stand there, sword in hand, and wait. The moment stretches the hush of the arena hanging heavy in the heat. You stand there, your breath coming slow and steady, your eyes fixed on the nobleman in the stands. His face is unreadable, carved from the same pale stone as the columns that ring the amphitheater. You can feel the weight of his gaze, the power in the flick of his wrist. And you know that in this instant, your life hangs by the thinnest of threads. You grip your sword tighter, the leather of the hilt rough under your fingers. The blood on the blade has begun to dry, dark and flaking in the sun. You glance down at it, and then back up at the man in the stands waiting for the gesture that will decide your fate. The crowd holds its breath. You can feel it in the stillness, the way the air itself seems to pause, waiting. Your heart beats slow and heavy in your chest, the only sound in the silence. For a moment, it feels like the whole world has narrowed to this single perfect point of balance. The nobleman lifts his hand, his thumb extended. It hovers in the air, and you swallow hard, your mouth dry as dust. Historians still debate the meaning of the thumbs, the gestures that decided life or death in the arena. Some say up meant mercy, some say down meant death, and some say it was never that simple. But you know what it means here. You can feel it in your bones. He holds your eyes for a breath, and then the thumb turns slow and deliberate and points to the side. Neither up nor down, not life nor death, but something in between. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding, your shoulders sagging under the sudden release of tension. You're led from the sand, your feet dragging a little with each step. The gate closes behind you, the roar of the crowd fading into a low hum that thrums in your ears. The lanista is waiting, his arms folded across his chest, his face as calm and unreadable as the nobleman's. He doesn't speak as you pass, but he gives you a small nod, a flicker of approval in the hard lines of his face. You nod back, the gesture small and tired, but real. In this place, even the smallest kindness is worth more than gold. You're led down a narrow corridor, the walls cool and damp after the blazing heat of the arena. The torches flicker their light, casting long, twisting shadows on the worn stone. You breathe in the scent of oil and sweat and old blood, and you know you're not out of danger yet. An odd fact crosses your mind as you walk, something you heard in a low whisper in the barracks, half forgotten. Until now, that some gladiators would carve small symbols into the handles of their swords. Tiny prayers or curses to guide the blade. You wonder if yours carries any such mark, or if it's just another tool in a world where tools are all that matter. The corridor opens into a small chamber, the walls lined with flickering lamps and the low murmur of voices. You see the other survivors there, men who walked the same sand and felt the same sun on their backs. Some meet your eyes and nod a silent greeting that says more than any words could. You sink down onto a bench, the cool stone, a relief against your bruised and aching body. You rest the sword across your knees, your fingers tracing the battered edge as if to remind yourself that you're still here, still breathing. The lanista appears in the doorway, his staff tapping softly on the stones. Rest, he says, his voice low and even. Tomorrow we train again. You nod, though your arms feel like lead and your shoulders ache with every breath. Tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow here, as long as you can stand, as long as you can fight. The others settle around you, the quiet hum of their voices, a low lullaby in the cool air. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the tiredness seep into your bones, and you know that for tonight at least you're safe. Tomorrow will come, and with it, the drills, the sand, the endless rhythm of survival. But for tonight, you breathe, you rest, you wait. The night settles in around you, the air in the chamber cool and heavy with the scent of oil and sweat. You sit there, the weight of the sword across your knees, a reminder of everything you've survived and everything that waits in the morning. Around you, the other men doze or stare into the flickering lamplight, their faces lined with exhaustion and something harder, something that doesn't have a name. You lean back against the cold stone wall, your breath slow and steady in the hush. The quiet is a blessing, a balm on your bruised muscles and your rattled bones. The crowd is gone now, their cheers and jeers fading into memory, and for the first time all day, you can hear your own thoughts. You think about the man you faced, about the look in his eyes in that final moment. You wonder if he's still alive somewhere in the tunnels beneath the arena, or if he's already been carried away to the silent places that wait for all of you in the end. You wonder if he dreamed of freedom once like you do, when the nights are long and the world seems kinder in the dark. Historians still debate whether gladiators truly believed in the promise of freedom, the wooden sword that meant release from the blood and the sand. You're not sure. Tonight, it feels like a story you tell yourself to keep the fear at bay. The man with the missing ear sits across from you, his eyes half closed as he hums a quiet tune. The melody is soft and low, a thread of sound that weaves through the shadows like a lullaby. You don't know the words, but you let it wash over you, the simple comfort of it enough to ease the tight knot in your chest. An odd fact flickers in your mind, something you heard once in the hush of the barracks, that some gladiators believed their spirits would linger in the sand long after their bodies were gone. The echo of their final breath, a whisper that would never fade. You wonder if it's true, if the ghosts of the fallen watch you. Even now, their silent presence, a testament to the lives lived and lost in this place. You close your eyes, your hand resting on the worn leather of your sword's hilt, and let the darkness settle in around you. The flickering light of the lamps dances on the walls, the shadows long and soft, and for a moment you let yourself believe that the world outside the arena is as quiet and gentle as this. The man with the missing ear leans back, his voice soft in the hush. "Sleep while you can?" He says the words carrying the weight of everything you both know. You nod, the motion small and slow, and let your head rest against the stone. You breathe in the cool air, the scent of oil and dust and old sweat, and you feel your eyes grow heavy. Tomorrow will come with the dawn, and with it, the drills, the heat, the endless rhythm of survival. But for tonight, you let yourself drift. The crowd is gone. The sun is gone. The weight of the sword in your hands is the only anchor that matters now. You let your breath slow, your thoughts drift, and in the quiet, you find a moment of peace. Just for tonight, you let yourself rest. As the final echoes of the crowd fade into the night, you sit alone with your thoughts, the taste of dust and sweat still lingering on your tongue. The day has stripped you bare, leaving only the steady beat of your heart and the slow rhythm of your breath to remind you that you're still here, still fighting. The weight of the sword across your knees is a promise and a burden. The memory of every blow and every breath etched into your bones. The man you faced in the sand is gone. Now his life and his final breath swallowed by the arena's endless hunger. You wonder if he lingers in the shadows, one more ghost in a place that seems built for them. You wonder if you'll be one of them someday. But not tonight. Tonight you rest. The flickering light of the oil lamps casts long, gentle shadows on the walls, and the low hum of your companions' voices is a comfort in the hush. You let yourself believe in small things, the cool touch of the stone beneath your back, the quiet strength of the man with the missing ear, humming an old tune in the darkness. You let yourself believe that for now, at least the world can be as soft and gentle as this. Tomorrow will come, and with it, the heat, the drills, the endless cycle of breath and blade. But tonight, you sleep, you breathe, you let the echoes of the sand and the roar of the crowd fade into a memory that will wait for the dawn. And in that quiet final moment, you find a little piece of peace.